Good evening, everyone. It's Kalini Kent here, and I'm very pleased to be here on this Friday evening. This is an unusual one for me because normally my in conversations with are during the day at 12:30, but there's a special reason. It's because Friday evenings is going to be our Inspiring Youth evening, and I've been doing a regular thing called Time to Talk, and I've got two amazing young men in the studio waiting to come and join us, Sam Pearson and Kieran Odedra. I'm going to let them tell you a little bit more about themselves, but I just want to say they're incredible young men, and this is the first time they've done something like this. So, we want to welcome as much conversation, any comments, any questions that you may have, and we hope that there's going to be a lot of people listening. So I'd like to welcome into the studio Sam and Kieran. Hello, guys.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Kalini.
It's so good to have you here, and I just want to also mention to anybody who is listening that please, we do welcome your comments and questions, because we will be in sort of talking about quite a number of things. We want to be talking about their backgrounds, their career aspirations, their journey so far to where they are, and also we're going to be talking about what has happened, the impact of COVID as well. But I just want to say, if you want your name to show, you do need to give StreamYard permission. So lovely to have you here, lads. It's so good. And I'm going to let you both describe how we all met, because I've obviously known both of you for, I think I worked it out, it's 9 years. Sam joined me at 10. Kieran joined me at 11 at Helen O'Grady. But do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, like Kieran, how we all met and what you're up to?
Yeah, so started at Helen O'Grady, as Kalini said, when I was 11 years old, which is a very long time ago now, which is crazy to think. And yeah, just really enjoyed the sessions there and progressed to helping out and things like that. I joined Kalini's team for the short courses that Signet's put on. And yeah, we've just got on there with a working relationship ever since then. It's been 9 years. Wow.
It has. Yeah, it's amazing, incredible, in fact. And I think what's been lovely as well is that you started with me. Well, both of you did at Signet at Helen O'Grady, which is my drama academy, and then you actually came on and joined at Signet's, and so you've been in loads of shows. And again, Sam, you tell us a little bit. You joined me at 10, didn't you? So both you joined at upper primary, I think, and Kieran started in the youth theatre, didn't you? So tell us a bit about yourself, Sam.
Well, I was just sort of looking to. Well, sort of like not like find some hobbies, but I sort of had an interest in acting and sort of just theatre in general. And I just decided we just looked around and we found your Helen O'Grady organisation, and it was a lot of fun. And I sort of just gained a lot of skills and like confidence from there.
And it's been great, actually. Yeah. I think you then carried on, didn't you? And you've done shows through Signet's, which is my not-for-profit youth group. And as Kieran has mentioned as well, you came and helped, I think, a couple of the short courses, didn't you? But both of you took part in an incredible production which we put on through the National Youth Theatre. The Theatre Connections, in fact, it was. And it was actually #YOLO. And in fact, Sam and Kieran both had main parts in it. Very good parts. We won't go there because I think you were both feeling you were.
Yeah.
Can I just say hello, Owen? And I think I know this young man. Hello, Owen. Lovely to meet you. I don't know what the pod means, but I'm sure it's a private. And anybody else, please do say hi to you know that you're listening, and say if your name isn't showing, just say who you are. It's great to know. So what we thought we would do tonight, we had a little bit of a taster last week, because we've launched this Time to Talk session, which is on Monday to Friday every night. But the Friday night is going to be for youth or younger people. It doesn't have to be very young people. It could be in your 20s. And it's just an opportunity for you all to come on, talk, get engaged and have a chat and find out about people's history and stories. So I just thought it'd be great if everybody was to, what's happened to Kieran? Kieran's just disappeared. Oh, don't worry. I'm sure he'll be coming back to join us. Maybe he's had a connection issues now. So maybe we'll start with you. So do you want to tell us a little bit about so you've now been, what you've done, tell us a bit about your GCSEs and your A-levels and so on.
Well, obviously
hello,
the GCSEs.
Kieran, back, by the way.
Hello, sorry, my internet I think just dropped out. Apologies.
It's all right. We had Sam here to talk. Sam, do you want to tell us a bit about, your A levels and what you hope to do and so on?
Well, I took drama, English language, and geography at A levels, and I really enjoyed them all. And I think I want to go into the sort of film and like TV industry, in the production side mainly, I think. And I think English language has sort of helped me gain some like just essential just like writing skills really.
Mm-hmm.
And also just kept up with drama because I just really enjoy it. And geography because I don't know, I just always enjoyed the geography and like the natural world and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I managed to get some decent grades from there with the kerfuffle going on with the grades and teacher predictions and all that. So yeah.
In fact, we did say we were going to talk tonight about, in fact, I was calling this conversation that what a difference a year makes, because what's interesting is that you are obviously a year behind Kieran, and we'll see that the difference between what's happened with you this year with COVID and what's happened with Kieran is it's a complete contrast, isn't it? Because I think your aspirations, wasn't it, was to go for the BBC apprenticeship scheme, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was in the production side, obviously, as I just said. But yeah, it was really strange because I applied, I think around just before like the first lockdown, and I had to go through several stages, and I was on like the first. I made it through to the second stage, where I had to do video recordings of me answering like preset questions that they wrote. And it was just hard because I completed like the second stage, but then I just had to like play this like waiting game during lockdown, waiting for a result. But obviously, but then it was cancelled, so that I was just sort of left in this sort of area where I don't really know what I was going to do the next year. Which is quite daunting. So, and
I think we also you shared with me the fact that you had also applied to, is it Derby University? And that unfortunately you'd made a decision as well I don't know if it is unfortunate, but you made the decision, didn't you, that you were going to defer a year anyway. So I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't be disappointed, because I think that the lot that people are having who are going to university at the moment is not the best, is it? It's not the best experience, particularly for those of us who've actually gone through the university system. I don't think we're getting the freshers week and all of the stuff that they'd hoped for. So that's obviously been a shame, hasn't it? Because you've obviously had your career sort of halted and your career path sort of plans stopped. Kieran, again, tell us in a parallel sense what's happened with you.
So I completed my A-levels last year in 2019, applied to this economics degree apprenticeship working for the civil service. I got that and then started it in September. And then the first 6 months of that involved kind of me moving to London from Cheshire up here where I am, and just getting stuck in, basically enjoying the job, enjoying the social aspects of it. And then March of this year, when lockdown happened and everything just kind of came to an abrupt halt, which basically just meant that the whole social aspect was gone. Couldn't work from the office, couldn't go out and see people or do things in London. And I've just been working from home ever since, basically. Haven't been to the office since the 16th of March, I want to say. So it's almost been almost been 8 months. So yeah, been a long time.
But the difference, I suppose, so in fact, it's interesting, isn't it? Because obviously, Sam, you haven't even gone away from home and gone away from Macclesfield, and
no.
You're still at home. Have you just stayed at home all the way through?
Yeah, I literally haven't gone anywhere else. Well, I managed to go on a short holiday to Wales with a group of friends, which I was quite lucky to do. So yeah, but that's like literally, apart from that, I've just been at home the whole time.
And I think what's also interesting is that, I think we've talked about how I think lockdown has had such a devastating impact on a lot of people, because for you yourself, Sam, you obviously missed out on all of the the end of year celebrations. You know, you're sort of at the end of your schooling, and so you've not had a prom, you've not had the proper sort of end of year celebrations that everybody else has. And I know it's been the same for a lot of people, but what I think is lovely tonight is that you're sharing the experience and vocalizing probably what a lot of people would love to share. And I think that's really quite important, to give people the opportunity to share their experience. And it's nice hearing from young people as well what's actually happened. I think the other thing as well, I wanted to hope to sort of like, let's highlight as well, is that you've also had this awful limbo period, haven't you?
Yeah.
Where you've not known what your grades were going to be, whether you were, you know, where you were going. I mean, how did that feel for you?
Well, it was pretty awful, to be honest. Well, I think it was okay from the first lockdown to August, when I got my results for A levels, because I didn't really have to like think about anything really. I could just like wait until this certain point, and then like before then I could just like, I'm just like okay doing whatever. But after I got the results, and when the BBC cancelled my application, I was sort of like, right, I've got these grades now, but like where can I like really go with that? And I ended up just literally cold calling these small TV and like film production companies in like Manchester and in like the Cheshire area. And I think a few of them like replied, and they said they'd like to offer me something, but obviously just because of the situation, they just can't do anything. And then I somehow managed to apply for this like other apprenticeship, because I was like just really desperate. I like don't want to like just do like next year just be doing nothing. But it ended up being more to do with digital marketing. And I thought that even though I'm pretty desperate for something, I don't want to be stuck in there for a year doing that. So yeah, it's been hard.
And I think that's really admirable, actually, for you to acknowledge that, because I think sometimes, you know, there's it's wrong if you then end up going down a path that you don't really want, because you'd end up, you know, being dissatisfied, disinterested, and then you'd probably drop out, which is actually not good for your self-esteem or anybody's confidence, and, you know, sort of you're wasting a lot of time. So I think, you know, and that's when I think you approached me again and said to me, you know, is there anything that you can do to help? And we are looking. And in fact, I can put the feelers out for you, by the way. I've got somebody who might be interested in you going and helping with some video editing work and stuff, which I'll tell you about after. But can I share this comment, by the way, and then we'll come on and hear from Kieran's experience. What lovely, young, respectful men. Oh, and I count to thank you so much. You vouch for that. Oh.
Cheers.
They're very modest as well. I've known these young men for so long. They are lovely. They are very pillars of youth. They are really amazing. I also want to share. So Kieran, I think let's talk about your situation, because I know that you've obviously you described to me that you were going from sleepy Macclesfield. For those of you who don't know, by the way, this is a different part of the country. We are in Macclesfield in Cheshire. We're in the northwest. So I think you said that it was like coming from Wagwan. What is this, a little joke?
I have a feeling Sam's mates have come out in full force here.
Yeah, they're just I mean, they're watching in like they're watching with, you know, good intentions, but they're just having a little fool around, I think.
Oh, good. Well, I'm really pleased to see that you've got such amazing friends as well. Please keep it coming, keep it clean. I have no idea what that means, but let's just assume it's nice.
Oh my God.
So, I think what's important, going back to our discussion, is I think what's important is that you said you were leaving sleepy Macclesfield, and you've gone to like a metropolis in London. So how was that for you?
Yeah, so like that was a huge shock to the system. because I think, especially where we are in Cheshire, you're not exposed to a lot of different cultures and things like that. So the minute you move to London, you're just in this melting pot of different cultures and people and environments, and it's crazy. And there's so much more to do socially and different foods to try and like bars to drink and things like that. So there's all these different things to try out. And I think
Everything's
that shock.
all right as well, isn't it, Kieran?
Yeah,
I'm from London, everybody. That's hence the accent. I actually lived in London till I was 18. So I've lived in London. My family were all down there. And I know what it's like. It's literally hustle and bustle. There's something going on all the time. You could literally be out partying all night if you really wanted to.
It's super busy. So like that busyness was something that I wanted to embrace, because obviously I've lived in Cheshire for most of my life. So it was something I wanted to embrace and to try out. But then obviously when March hit, it was like the exact reverse just happened, and all of a sudden I'm sat in London in all of this, but you can't experience anything. You're just kind of trapped. It's like the glass walls around you. You can see what's out there. You can see what you want to do. You know what's out there, but you just can't leave. You're in lockdown. So yeah, that was a strange one.
I mean, what impact did that have on you?
I think like those two shocks to the system, so moving to London and then also having the lockdown in London, they were shocks to the system. It was quite a big thing. It took me some time to get used to on both occasions. I feel like when I first moved there, it's kind of like everything's traveling at 100 miles an hour, and you have to kind of like just take time to just stop and think, and just make sure you like keep your bearings. And then I guess the reverse kind of happened. In March, it's like you want to be going at that full speed because you got used to it, and then all of a sudden somebody puts a brick wall in front of you, and you can't carry on. So yeah, they definitely took a lot of getting used to. I think like even now there are still things I'm getting used to. In terms of, for example, I've just moved back home to Macclesfield now from London, so there's still more to get used to here. I think having that number of shocks to your body and just your mental health and all that is a difficult thing to manage, but yeah.
Do you know, I think it would be nice if you're happy to, in a bit, to actually share the sort of the mental health aspects of it, because I think that is quite significant. But I also wanted to ask you a little bit more about the actual, the type of work you're doing, because what's interesting here is that, one thing I'm very passionate about is there's a high level of what they call NEETs, NEETs, young people not in education, employment or training. And both of you have taken the route of not going to university and wanting to pursue, the apprenticeship route. What was your motivation? Well, certainly, do you want to go further this time, Kieran? What was your motivation for going for an apprenticeship rather than uni?
So I think like the first indication came I think it was year 12. Sam, I don't know if you did work experience in year 12. I think I was.
Yeah, I did a bit. Yeah.
So it was that got me thinking that I really enjoyed actually working and having responsibility for something and producing stuff and just like having a job. I worked in a PR company in Manchester called City Press for a couple of weeks. It was really, really good experience. And after that I started looking for apprenticeships, and most of them were kind of like finance based, which didn't really interest me. And then I just saw an advert for the economics one, and then the benefits of it is that not only was I going to be kind of applying what I learned, but I'd get a degree out of it as well. Which is really important to me, especially for economics. I think it's quite a degree-dominated field in that, if you want to get into it, you kind of have to have a degree. So it meant that I didn't have to worry about not having a degree, but I could also apply what I was learning and just do the job, have responsibility and things like that. So those were my main drivers, I'd say.
I mean, there's obviously the financial aspect that you're being paid, which is...
Well, yeah, there's that as well. That's nice.
I think that was a good one, but I'm sure that isn't your only motivation. And I think the other thing as well is that you sort of, as you feel you're actually on a career path, and are you also guaranteed a job at the end of it?
Yeah, so provided I pass my degree, I'm guaranteed entry into the graduate scheme, yeah.
That's great, isn't it? And I mean, have you had, whilst you've been doing it, have you been busy? What is the actual experience of the apprenticeship?
It's really good. I think they've developed, so the Government Economic Service, which is like the body that manages all the economists within the civil service, developed the degree program alongside the University of Kent. And what it means is that the university program feeds directly into my job. So I'll do things slightly earlier than I would have done in a traditional degree, or completely new things that wouldn't be in a traditional economics degree that are relevant to the job. So it means that I'm more prepared for what goes on. And work are really good at knowing that I do have a degree as well. Like they don't just kind of barrage me with stuff 5 days a week, which is really good. But I'm also given enough responsibility and freedom to like shape what I want to do. and just like take pride in my work, I guess, which is really, really nice. It's a feeling I
That
haven't
must
had
be
for a while since. Yeah.
that must be really fulfilling, because I think what you're doing is you're able to apply the knowledge that you're getting on a daily basis, and when you're doing your training and in your uni course. And also, I suppose you're getting that experience, that life experience of working with other people, because it's a very, again, I think this transition from being at school and education into the working world is incredible. I think that's sometimes what people find hard, is going from, I do transition coaching, it's like that transition from school to then into university, which is a different life altogether. And all of a sudden you haven't got the responsibilities of parents looking, you've got more responsibilities and you've got more autonomy of what you're doing. And then in the next stage, then into working, whereas you have been able to, some respect, get both the benefits of both. Would you say that?
Yeah, I would say so. I think, yeah, I mean, for sure, there's not much else to add on that. I do have both benefits. It's like I've put 200 miles between me and my parents, so there's not that there. That wasn't the reason. And I've done that, and then also, yeah, I get to take responsibility for my own, like, I mean, what I'm doing at work, and yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, and also now you're back home, and in fact, what people don't know is that Kieran lives right opposite me.
Yeah.
So when Kieran, so I will just say just about both these lads. I mean, so Kieran actually came to my drama academy. He was doing the youth theatre, and then he became one of my assistants in the classes, helping me with the younger children. So I think what's been great, again, I'd love to touch on this at the end, is the fact that you've actually gained a lot of experience of managing situations, and you're very, very good at that. And then you led all the skills, and the skills that you learned from that you were able to apply in my youth courses, my Easter and summer courses. And planning things, you help me write scripts and all sorts. I think that it's great. So the experience you're getting is fantastic, isn't it? That what you're doing now as well. That's brilliant. So Sam, in terms of your choosing to go the apprenticeship route, what was your motivation? Was it because it was the BBC, or was it because of the job?
I think definitely what you said, Kalini, earlier about just getting that real life experience, like working with people who actually are like full-time employees, like at that company. But also, I think the experience was definitely vital, because then going into the degree at Derby, that's the same subject. Then I'd have those skills, and then I'd be able to sort of progress quicker. And then I'd also have some contacts from there as well, if I ever needed any help from anyone. But also, I think with the contacts as well, I think a good example was my brother did an apprenticeship at a graphic design firm, in the year where I am now, and then he did a graphic design degree at uni, and then when in lockdown, when he was sort of looking for work, he was able to contact them, and then they were able to give him some work, whether compared to his university mates who didn't have that experience, and they don't know anyone in the actual industry to make contacts and get work. But I think also I just wasn't personally ready to go to university, and I just sort of wanted to explore sort of the industry and what I liked and things like that.
Do you know what I think is so mature about what you just said, actually, is that you're acknowledging that you weren't ready to go to uni? Because some people do actually get caught up on, I don't know if you can experience, I certainly know this from my own children. I've got 28 and 23-year-old. And I do think sometimes what happens is you get on this treadmill of everybody else is doing that, or the majority of your mates are doing it. And it's almost like not peer pressure because people are intending it to be peer pressure, but it's if you're not sure what you want to do, it almost seems to be the default position that you go to uni.
Yeah.
Would you say that that's the case? Do you think that?
Well, there's obviously a lot of, there's the sort of, I think it's the social life that attracts a lot of people to go there. And it's very popular. And I think a lot of people sort of want to just, it's pretty reasonable to just, have a few years where you can just, have fun, like a lot of the time. But it's a pretty a pretty big commitment, and for some people they shouldn't just go off based on what other people are doing. So
yeah,
it's all very subliminal, isn't it? Like you're kind of shoehorned down that path through
Mm.
school, even though you might not realize it. All the messages are
Yeah.
kind of like, you're going to go to uni, and you have to try and, to use Kalini's phrase, step off the treadmill, to
Yeah.
kind of find your way around it if you need to.
Yeah,
it's good.
your
I think
volume's a bit
that's
low,
example
Kieran.
considered it.
Just will say your
sorry
volume.
about
No, it's okay. Just
That's okay.
and we won't go into drama logo and lingo and say project your voice because well, project your voice.
That's a throwback.
I think that it's such a thing, isn't it? Because everybody's sort of saying, well, what you're doing, what course you're doing, what course you're doing. Have you done your UCA statement and all that sort of stuff? And I think it's quite admirable, and that's why I thought that was my motivation in getting both of you on at the same time, because then you can see the pros and cons, but also the difference that, like, literally just being a year apart has made. Obviously, COVID is what's done that, but it just shows that the curveball that's been thrown to us, thrown on, and what we've had to do to adapt, and it's affected a lot of adults. But generally speaking, in the media you hear so much about adults, and then you hear about school children. But I thought it was really nice tonight to share the experience of young men in your age group who, in that transition period from having left school, not yet fully, you're in just starting work here, but you're not yet. And I think it's really nice to hear that experience. And I'd love just anybody who is listening, if there's anybody who wants to join us on a conversation in the future, Sam's going to be staying on doing it regularly, and Kieran's going to come and join us as well. So, we want to have a lot more, many more conversations like this. Can I share, again, maybe this is a cryptic message, George? Nice Lego.
I think he's just pointing out my background, as you can see, just on my shelves.
I thought he was talking. No, I haven't got any Lego in my background. Thank you, George. Lovely to see. Please do. Anybody else, if you've got any questions? Is there any questions anybody's got about the apprenticeship scheme, for example, to ask Kieran and Sam? Has anybody got anything to share, for example, about the decisions that they've made regarding going to university, whether it's the right one? And I'd love to hear from anybody. I also like to hear from anybody who has actually gone to university and is actually what their experience is at present. I mean, Sam, you're certainly in communication, you said, with mates who've just gone. How has it been for them?
I don't know. Well, I can't speak for them, obviously, but I think from what I've gathered, I think the social life is, it's, I mean, trying to get the words out, but
well, they're not getting a full
yeah. Well, yeah.
Today.
I think there's a lot of partying going on just in like the flatmate sort of groups, and obviously like there have been flat parties that have happened regardless of the restrictions and things like that, because everyone just wants to have that experience. But I don't know. I think the main thing is like not being able to like go out like that much, and say if someone has like a lecture in the morning and then they're doing something in the evening with their flatmates, then they can't. And then during that, like, between the lecture and the evening, they're not really like doing that much. And if they get their work done, then it's like, yeah, they're not really they're just sat in their room. But obviously, I'm not there, so yeah.
What about you, Kieran? Are you in touch with any mates who are at uni?
Yeah, so like most of my mates are now in second year. I think they're having similar experiences, and that you can't really go out and do much, but they are getting the socializing within their houses. I know a few people who have just started this year, and they're all kind of like bored out their minds on the whole. I think especially with obviously this lockdown that's just come into force. People who previously been like tier 3 areas like Liverpool, a lot of people at Liverpool. Just like stuck in your room all day basically is what the gist of it is, which again is not gonna, when you're sat there and you're thinking to yourself, well, all my teaching being done online, the quality might be affected of it. There's a lot of things to stress about. You're paying 9,000 something for tuition. Maybe that's not entirely worth it to you. You're stuck in your room all day. You can't really go out and explore the new city you're in. So yeah, the general consensus is it's not entirely great.
And I think maybe it's time I think it'd be good if we did talk about the mental health aspects and the impact on our emotional well-being, because I know certainly when people go to university, I mean, I've had both children do that, and so what's happened for them again is it's that amazing experience at the beginning, which is the Freshers' Week experience, and I think a lot of strong bonds are made during that first period. And they're often the friendships that then continue and perpetuate during the majority of their first year. Things do obviously ebb and flow, etc. But I think a lot of young people, those bonds are really important. And they're certainly not getting that. And I think that the ones who are in your sort of like cohort, Kieran, if I can call it that, who are in their second year, they've at least had the benefit of having those bonds created. Yeah. And they've got the friendship groups, haven't they? And I think that the ones who are going there for the first time now, they're the ones who are really finding it a bit of a struggle. But maybe we can then talk about this whole concept then of isolation, because we have obviously all of us been thrown into a situation which is quite traumatic, because it's something that we've never ever had to deal with. And so I think maybe we can talk about the different things, the aspects. So I think there's the isolation bit, isn't there? Any feedback on that?
Yeah, I think so. The isolation, yeah, it's affected everybody, first of all. Like that is a given. I think especially when you're young, I mean, humans are social creatures, right? Like that's all we want to do. We just want to interact with each other. And it's like, especially when you're young, you're sold this promise of university, for example, that it's going to be this great social experience, and that it's this all singing, all dancing kind of escape from home. And then if that doesn't happen, that is a big blow, to the whole experience. I think one of the worries that I hear from people who have just started this year is, for example, finding a house for second year. Most, and you'll know this from your two kids, Kalini, that you normally find your second year housemate, and you sort that by sort of end of November in the first year.
Exactly.
It's all done very, very soon. They've not had time to find that group of 5-6 people to get close with and find a house with, which is a big worry for people. And I know that certainly if I was in their place, I'd be very worried about it too. So I think that's some of the impacts we're thinking about.
And I think that's what I was getting at. Your firm friendships are actually built right at the beginning, and that is a really significant one. Because that transition period is really hard, and I think also because a lot of people are away from home, and they may be responding to it in a different way. And so what's actually happening for them is they're probably coping with not having the social side of it, which sometimes alleviates the stresses. And so what they're doing is they're maybe feeling even more homesick in a bizarre sort of way. And because you're then enclosed and you can't go out. So I just feel for them. I think it's been really tough. So there's obviously the isolation side of it. What about stresses and anxiety? What aspects have you found of that? That you can share, by the way. You don't have to.
Yeah, sure. I think, well, I would definitely say that I think mainly due to the apprenticeship especially being cancelled, and the inability to find any sort of like experience that could like go towards it in like a similar way. The inability to find that has definitely been very like taxing on me, because it's such, I don't know, it's just especially hard because I've just come out of A levels. So that's like a pivotal point in young person's life when they've come out of that. And to not have sort of anywhere to go and to have that uncertainty there like all the time is very hard for me.
And then I think that then rubs off on others that I'm sure then your parents as well. We don't all live in a vacuum, so like, I'm sure your parents will be then worried. and then any anxieties or any stress that you're experiencing and the impact of that and how it, because as we know, we're not going to talk about an anxiety and stress. It's not an anxiety and stress lesson, but it has an impact on our well-being. It makes us more anxious. It makes us maybe more irritable. You may be feeling anger or frustration, and you do unfortunately tend to take it out on your loved ones and the people you're with. So I think that people, and we're all experiencing, so apart from you feeling your anxiety or stresses, Sam, it's then your parents and your friends, etc. So, and what about you, Kieran? What have you found?
Well, I think for me it's not been so much the uncertainty, it's more the kind of the fact that I had something and it's just been taken away from me. And it's that shock that happened in March, and it's like, I had all this stuff going on, and I just can't have it anymore. And in a way it is uncertainty, because I mean, God knows when the next time I'll be in the office is, or when I'll next be able to go see people. Goodness knows how many people I'll be able to see at Christmas and do things like that. So I think there are some stresses there. I think I guess it waits to be seen how the impact on my family will be. I'm working at home now, which means that I'm going to be always at home, working and stuff, which has implications for them, I guess. So we'll have to see how that is. They've obviously welcomed me back, which is really nice. So hopefully it'll be okay. But it's that stresses will come to pass. Dad's obviously gonna be working from home as well as me. My brothers will be isolating from school and things like that periodically when a case comes up in their year groups. So there will be that kind of friction. It's just something that we're going to be mindful about, basically, and try and manage as we go on. But yeah, I think it's difficult for just about everybody.
And I think most people are struggling with the space aspect, certainly if everybody's on top of each other in the same living space, and particularly you've gone away. And also, I know certainly, when you're away, you develop your own independent style of living. So I'm sure you've come back home, and whilst your parents are absolutely welcoming you with open arms, you've obviously then got to go back into the way that they run their home, etc. And I'm sure there's slight variations now. You can easily go and get yourself vodka and Coke the other night and some. When we were having our chat last Friday, Kieran came back so we could take a picture, and it was vodka and Coke in hand.
There you go. Friday night, got to be done. But yeah, no, it's true. It's little things like that. I mean, I don't think people think about them that much, but it's those little things that you take for granted, that you just, you end up in one way or another, whether it is little things like, the passing conversations at work, or whether it's the socials at the end of the school year, or like, the physical contact with your mates in the school holidays, as opposed to just online through like, Discord or games or whatever. Just the little things like that, you take them for granted, and I think it's something that we've all got to manage, basically.
And I think also people take for granted also those little things, and it's only once it's missing you realise it. It's those little things like the chat over the coffee, coffee machine, or going and making a coffee in the kitchen if you're in halls or in digs. It's those little things that people like to do and that they're missing out on, or even just going to school and throwing your bag in and talking about what happened on the way to school or on the way home. Those little conversations you can't capture always when you go online. And I know people are trying to do it, but it's not the same conversation, because all you've got to talk about is what is happening at you at the moment. With you haven't got the little extra bits to add into the melting pot. And I think that is where things become, I think we described it last week, it's intense, don't they? It's a bit more intense, isn't it? Because you're not having that freedom to sort of, and on all the extra things going on in your life to talk about. Yeah. It can then become quite negative. And everybody talking about the negative stuff and what's wrong, rather than the exciting things to look forward to. And I think that's probably what a lot of people are missing, not having that exciting stuff to talk about and look forward to, and say, oh, but let's go, when should we meet? Just even the little conversations, planning when you're going to meet up next. I think that's a real vacuum for people, not just yourselves, adults as well. If we're meeting up for coffee or something, we can't do it.
I think like especially after the first lockdown, there was this kind of appreciation that I think it was every 3 weeks or so, they'd like refresh the guidance or whatever, and so it went on for a little bit, and then they gave this end date, and everybody was like, right, okay, this is the end date, we can start to socialize again, and there was a date on it. Since then, obviously, we've had the tier system, and now we're in another lockdown again. And a lot of people who I've spoken to, like family members, friends, like whoever, they're just all a bit fed up of it. And so there's none of this kind of, people don't even let themselves have those kind of like wishful thoughts, I guess, in terms of planning things. This current lockdown is due to end on the 2nd of December. Have I nor anybody else contacted each other about doing anything after the 2nd? Nope, not yet. It's just not something that we've even thought about, because who knows what's going to happen next, and who knows where the end is, which is really quite a negative thing to think, but it's the frame of mind that a lot of us have found ourselves in.
I think also as well, because it's going up to Christmas, I think people aren't being able to go and do the normal Christmas shopping or the exciting hype that normally happens. That's been an impact as well, hasn't it? And so I don't want to focus on all the negative, but I think it's just nice that we're all recognizing the impact it's having on us. And I think if people, once we talk about these things, I think Owen's just sent a heart, some heart, guys. Thanks, Owen.
Sam, you're meant to especially that support.
I think you're meant to have an impact. And all aboard the Pog books.
Kieran, it's like a
Discord chat gone wrong.
It's like a donation sound. Yeah.
So when we were having your serious conversation a moment ago, I thought I'm not going to share those comments.
Yeah.
The conversation got distracted. I'm sure if there are some other sensible people, your parents listening tonight, by the way.
I think my mum and father
my mum is. I don't know.
Hello, mum and dad and parents. You are allowed to. I'm not sure why your comments. I don't know whether it's because they're only showing certain comments from one of the streams,
or if they don't know how or something.
I'm platforms at the moment, so I'm streaming in Inspirational Women of the World, Signets, and also onto my Facebook profile. So anyway, let's move on. And I think the other thing I think is nice to recognise is hi, Emma. Oh, lovely. I'm proud of your young boy, and are you pleased to have him home?
We've got mum in the chat.
I think now. I know. I bet you Emma is absolutely over the moon to have you home, and I bet your brothers are. I bet your brothers are very happy to have you home.
Yeah, it's been nice.
Your mum looks gorgeous in that picture. Absolutely stunning.
Sure, she'll be chuffed a bit to be saying that.
Oi. Okay. So. Right, so going back to where we were talking. So I think we've recognised there's been a lot of mental health aspects of this. I think we've had quite a okay. So although he could make me some more drinks, so I think after this, I think you need to put your request in the comments now, please, Emma.
I think
request in the comments. So once we finish this chat, he can go and make you whether it's a vodka and Coke, or I'm sure he's brought some home with him.
Personally, it should be a welcome home drink, but we'll save the domestic for later.
He'll make you a drink. I'm making a request that you make your mum a drink now, please, Kieran. Going back to what are your plans, guys? How are you? What are your coping strategies for all of this, and what are your plans for the future? I understand, Kieran, it's yours. Yours is probably a little bit more straightforward, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say so. It's just kind of a case of sit it out here until they say you can go back to the office for a little bit, at which point I'll flip back to London. That's pretty much it, I think.
And I think you said to me that you're probably going to be around in this area till about February.
Yeah, February, March, I think it will be. But that's just my guess. Again, I've no idea what's going to happen in the next few months, but my guess would be around then. So, yeah.
So yours, in a sense, because you've already got it in the bag, is probably easier, isn't it? And
I would say so. I think.
In terms of exams, have you got exams that you're going to need to sit?
Yeah, I had one possibly last Friday. Yeah, and I'm going to have a couple more for this term, and then when obviously next term starts, there'll be more. I'm examining fairly consistently.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a slight stress about the uni have dealt with that in a less than great way initially, but they have been responding to feedback, which is good. And so yeah, I mean, like I admit, I think that I have got a a lot of things set out for me already, which is obviously of great help. So yeah, I would say, compared to Sam, for example, yeah, I hold my hands up. I think my path probably is a little bit easier at the moment.
So I suppose it's weathering the storm for you, isn't it?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it's finding strategies to keep you busy and keep your spirits up and all the rest of it. And your mum, when you finish here, would like a salted caramel hot hotel chocolate stuff you brought home.
Brilliant.
And she's acknowledging you like your flavoured vodka.
Good stuff.
At least I'm doing my bit there, Hema, to make sure you get a drink tonight, my dear. So Sam, let's talk about your situation, obviously. So it's very different, isn't it? Which I feel, and it's not in a pitiful way, I'm saying I feel so sad for you. I do feel very sad for you, and not just you, but all the other young people who are challenged at the moment. So how are you managing the situation? Obviously, you said you've applied for some jobs, and that's what happened. You've approached me, and I'm gonna try and sort you out with something. By the way, I've got somebody in mind who did actually the one who did my show reel. He's actually said to me he's looking for somebody to help him with some editing work and doing research and stuff. And so there may be something there for you.
Well, that's hopeful.
Well, it is.
Thank you.
It's also great. So, but anyway, the thing is, just a shout out anybody. If you've got a job going for this young man, I can highly recommend. I'll give you a reference for him.
Fishing.
But what are your thoughts then, Sam?
What on my plans or how I'm coping?
Yeah, you've obviously got a few scenarios which are possible. I mean, when the BBC apprentice scheme is going to open again, you then still probably presumably will have to start the application process again, won't you?
Yeah, probably.
And then you've obviously then got to look at, well, what is plan B? And is there a plan C?
I mean, at this moment in time, it's pretty hard to make any plans. But I think, I don't know, it's hard because I still really want that experience at the BBC. But then if I wanted to go to uni, then I'd have to wait another year until I went. So,
have you missed the application window again?
Well, no, it's just that if I applied for the BBC again, and then I got into that, I would then have to choose between the BBC and the offer at Derby, which I deferred for next year. So it's just whether I want to do uni and a year later.
So I suppose it's a case of you maybe hedging your bets, maybe, and doing both, applying for the uni, and then you've got, and then you've also, in the meantime, are applying for the BBC. But I do wish you any luck with that, and any help you need with that. I'm really happy to help it. But maybe you also need to perhaps look at other options as well, because the BBC may or may not come off.
Yeah, I'm always looking at other channels to see what's going on there, but not much is happening around where I am.
I'll just share this comment for Kieran. Glad you settled back home now. Is that a relative?
Yeah, that's my auntie.
Oh, lovely. Your mum's sister. Looks like your mum's sister.
Yes.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you for that.
I'll let her decide if that's a compliment or not. I'm joking. I said I'll let her decide if that's a compliment or not.
So listen, lads, I think this has been absolutely amazing, you coming on, and I think it's just been the start of many conversations with young people. I think you're very brave, and I admire the fact that you've come on and you've been able to be so open and honest and share your thoughts and share how you are and how you're feeling. Is there any any hints, tips, things that you've learned that you'd like to pass on to any before we finish?
Okay, thank you. I'd definitely say that it's important to note that even though I'm trying to phrase this properly, I knew what I was going to say, but it's completely gone. If anyone's sort of feeling they just aren't feeling how they should be, or they're just not happy or anything because of their situation right now, because there are probably like hundreds or like thousands of other young people like me going through the exact same thing. And it's important to remember that even though there are people with like worse problems than you, you shouldn't like invalidate yours. And it's important, like, and you could be like, oh, it's like some people have it worse than me, but it still affects you, and you just shouldn't disregard it, even though, yeah.
That's a really amazing thing to highlight, actually, because I think that is the thing. Sometimes people say, oh, you know, everybody else is going through it, it must be normal. But actually, that's very much about self-care, isn't it? And it's about you recognizing when you need the support. And, you know, there's that phrase that we all hear about, isn't it? Which is like, you know, it's okay not to be okay, and to ask for support and ask, you know, and signpost, you know, somebody else isn't coping, signpost them to the support that they may need. But that's very mature of you to say that, because I think some people don't do that.
And then they like tend to forget themselves, and then it sort of spirals, and
I think everything's relative. Success is relative, but also like this kind of stuff is also relative, so it'll affect different people in different ways. And being so that's very much about self-awareness, isn't it? And being aware of being able to also reach out to people and having your support network of people. In fact, last week when we spoke, we were coming up with a few sort of tips and strategies, weren't we? And maybe we can finish on a positive note with some strategies. So yours is obviously being self-aware and sort of recognizing that you do, you know, if there's things aren't right, you know. So I think sometimes it's also knowing where to go for the support, isn't it? And having people to talk to. I think we said last week that talking about it is really important instead of just bottling it in until it's a downward spiral. What would you say, Kieran, about that? Yeah, I would echo everything that Sam said. I think that it's important to try not to get lost in that tunnel vision of, because equally there's this tunnel vision of like everything's going so well and everything's going at 100 miles an hour, it's great, and there's this defined path, but when something like this happens, it's really easy to get sucked into this tunnel vision of, oh my gosh, the whole world is burning, you know, everything is dead negative. And it's important to try and find ways to break that line of thought and to find positives and be productive and be proactive in everything you're doing.
Very, very good. Can I just share this comment? I think you both are being very incredibly, this is what I've always admired about you both. You do think a lot. You know, I think I would like to share this. Hema, your mum, please don't be embarrassed. Kieran. Very proud of Kieran, his degree apprenticeship with moving. I'm going to read it out because in case we're going to turn this into a podcast as well. With moving to a different team, Kieran had said he noticed a difference with not being able to socialise with them like he did with the old team. I agree also, I fear for those missing out on the traditional start of uni with Freshers Week, etc. Best of luck, Sam. You'll be snapped up.
Well, thank you for those words of yours.
And I think it's lovely because I think you two have grown up with, I feel like I've had you growing up with me in the sense through the Drama Academy and through Signets and stuff, and I followed your sort of progress and path all the way through for the last 9 years, and it's been lovely to see. And I think you've blossomed into amazing young men. And so I think it's nice to think that, you know, don't let the present, you know, one of the things we touched on last week, I think, as I said, is that, you know, things can happen to you, but there's only certain things that are in your control. So don't stress about the things which are out of your control. There are things, you know, we can't control what's happened to us. So it's about your mindset, and you haven't achieved what you want, but add that word, important three-letter word, Sam, in particular, yet. Things haven't come to fruition for you yet, but they will. And if you have that growth mindset, and you can think about, you know, that things will come to fruition eventually, and that, you know, there is going to be a future. You know, things will come in your lap because you've got the right mindset for it. But do you sort of...
Yeah, I totally understand. Yeah, and it's sort of, if you like put it into perspective, like, it's only a year. Like, next year will be, you know, a different one, to say the least. But then, you know, after that, hopefully things will go back to normality, and I'll just sort of like look back on see how far I've like grown in that year. And just
And I think that is a really important point. It is about the growth and looking for opportunities. So, you know, one change is, and I talk often about the fact that change is one of the most sort of like difficult things for us to cope with. It leads to a lot of stress for people because we all like to, just like we're creatures of habit and you know, we're wired for connection, and I think that's what we're not having at the moment, the connection and the contact with others. But we're also creatures of habit, and we develop our path, and let's face it, you've both been on this life path and you've thought right, this is what I want to do. It's now been thwarted and taken away, like with a lot of young people and adults where their jobs are upside down. So I think it's about managing that change and looking for the opportunities. And you will, I really absolutely will get, in fact, I will share this. I think you have just got so much potential, Sam. Very proud of Sam. Much love from all his friends and family. Oh, thank you. Is this a family member?
Just one of my mates, yeah. Cheers, John.
Thank you. I'll snap up Pam. I think she meant Sam. That's it.
Yeah, it's just a nickname sort of thing.
Volume.
It really is a Twitch chat gone wrong.
I think you're great time tonight. I think we're going to have you on regularly every week, Sam, and encourage them to come on too, and then they can talk. I would like to say,
I doubt that.
Is there anything else, lasting thing that you want to say to us before we finish, guys? Because it's 56 minutes, and I want to actually keep this under an hour because we're going to put it onto Instagram, IGTV.
I think the last thing I said was what I've wanted to say. So
perfect.
I don't think there's anything else.
Lovely. Oh, thank you. And what about you, Kieran? Anything lasting thoughts?
I think it's just through all this, try and stay productive, stay proactive, and just stay positive as much as you can. Sam, you have all my support, mate. You know that if you need any help with any apprenticeship stuff, you've got my number. So
cheers.
So what we need to do is do a massive apprenticeship search campaign now for Sam. Owen, Sam is going to be a co-host with me on a Friday night, so that is actually happening. So Sam is actually going to come on with me on a Friday night, and we're then going to invite other people on as well. And so eventually the plan is that these guys are going to be able to run the Friday night rather than me hosting it. So listen, I would like to thank everybody for their input, and especially your friends. I'm not sure what feature you, but and thank you so much, Hema and Sam's and Kieran's family for taking part. If anybody would like to add any comments after this, please do. If anybody would like to join me in a conversation, again, please do just contact me and we'll arrange something. We do a bit of preparation beforehand, but we like it to just ebb and flow and let it be a natural conversation so that we get to know these guys. Thank you so much. And I'd like to say every Monday to Friday, 8 o'clock. This is an unusual one because we've done a full In Conversation with, but it's like Time to Talk every Friday night and Monday to Friday, different themes. So thank you, everybody. I hope you have a lovely evening. Those of you who are watching the footy, those of you who are watching Children in Need, have a lovely one. Take care and all our love. Bye-bye.